You are listening to the Giant Sports Show. Now, here's your host, Robert Wannick.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Voice of the Valley, AM 1450 KBMW. Robert Wannick here. My first Giants Coaches Show. I am joined by Wahpeton Huskies head coach, Jeff Ralph. Jeff, we've had this conversation before. You and I are typically getting 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night, and that's good enough. And I can't imagine that number is going up for you on the eve of state qualifier game.
No, it's not. When I got up this morning, my wife said, "Go back to sleep." And I said, "Good one." And I got up. So that was it. But, I think we're ready today. I have great assistant coaches who, they're clipping film for me and giving me recommendations on who to guard and how to guard and what we should run. And, that takes a lot off of my plate. We had to do a little bit of work last night, but they had a ton of work done before. So, it was just a matter of me reviewing and getting a scouting report and a game plan ready for the boys.
So take us through that Kindred game. For those of you that don't know, Wahpeton lost in the region championship game to Kindred. That was 65-50. 18-16, Huskies up after the first quarter. Kindred's undefeated. They're ranked number 1. Got to have some confidence in that game. How do you think that the guys played?
Well, I thought we did everything in the game we could. You look at the two previous games, we were, at halftime the game was, probably over. And, we felt like we were in the game. We felt, heck, we had the lead after the first period, which, that didn't happen in the previous two meetings. And to score 18 points, that might have been a good half for us against Kindred the other two times.
Right.
So, we did the things we had to do. I really like defensively. We made an adjustment with how we're going to guard them, and I think we kept them off balance. I think for 3 quarters, and Cooper and Trey, single-handedly in the first half kept us in the game. They combined for 22 of our 26 points in the first half, and Coop from the 3-point line. Trey hit a 3, but was just going to the basket and hitting jumpers, and they kept us in it. And I was really pleased with our effort. Our defensive play was really good. I thought we were physical with them, which is hard to do because they're so big and physical. And I thought really going into the fourth quarter down 7, we're in a good place. I felt like. We get a couple stops and string a couple buckets together and put some pressure on them. They really won game this year against 4 wins where they maybe down heading into the fourth and then outscored 4 wins, 22-6 or something, where, they're a fantastic basketball team. So, we knew maybe a run was coming and, they got a couple transition buckets, a couple dunks, and then that kind of, that got the lead to be almost insurmountable for us. But, Braden, kind of quiet in the first half, and then he scores 13 of his 15 in the second half. So, we had Coop and Trey in the first half leading the way for us, and then, Braden in the second half. But, if we could have combined it a little bit, and we seemed to never get Jaden going. Starcevic just bodied the heck out of him the whole game and kept him a little bit off balance. So, all of those things said, I still felt like we had a chance to win that game heading into the fourth quarter. So just a great effort by our guys, a great job of believing in a game plan, which, when you get done late Tuesday night and get home and, pretty much practice Wednesday's a shoot around really. And then to be able to execute a game plan defensively, I thought was just great for the kids. And, we look at how the game went. The Valley City game the prior night, we dominated the post. We outscored them 17-2, out-rebounded them 11-8, and shot 10 of 14 from the foul line, which is great. And then, we didn't get that inside game that we needed maybe, and then we just didn't shoot it well from the free throw line either. And some of those free throws really could have made a difference early, I thought, and then changes the face of the game a little bit. But proud of the boys for how they battled, to be second in the region. I think with a couple of those teams coming back, Valley and Central Cass was the returning or defending B champ. I thought, if we could do that, that'd be a pretty darn good year for us. And then to have a chance to go to state with that win was pretty big. And we get another chance today. So
yeah, Cooper hit that 3 in the first quarter against Kindred, and he kind of punched a hole right through the air. And the atmosphere was certainly in the Huskies' favor there. BJ Walters was on the call on AM 1450. He was excited. And we're back at it today at 1 o'clock. You guys play the 3 seed, Grafton, and that's going to be region versus region there for a trip to the state tournament that will be at the Fargo Dome. So can you kind of give me a preview of what you guys need to take care of today without giving too much of the secret sauce in the game plan?
I think number one, when you look at if you look at any film of Grafton, they're really a quick team. Their guards are all penetrators. They all like to shoot the 3. They shoot a ton of 3s, probably close to 22, 23, 24 3s a game, which tells you they must make them if they're shooting that many. Because they're a high quality team and ended up being the 1 seed going into the region tournament up there, which everybody probably thought was the strongest region in the state with them and 4 wins in Devil's Lake. So they had a post guy, this Drew kid, 33. He's about 6'7", looks like he weighs probably 225, 230 pounds, just a big big kid. We'll have to do a job on him and just contain the dribble penetration and make sure we're out on shooters. And I think they do have a couple kids that come off the bench with some length, about 6'3", 6'5", but I think not the Brooks Bacco and Presley Peraza, Carson Ossie kind of players. They're not 6'5" to 6'7", and I think maybe just better matchups for us individually, but just fantastic basketball players. They're just so quick. Which we've seen on film, and they shoot it quick. If they have an inch to get a 3 off, they're going to shoot it. So we're going to have to be on them and really provide some ball pressure and take some 3s away from them. And if we can do that, maybe get some long rebounds and start some fast breaks with that. Maybe that'll offset that 3-point shooting a little bit. So I think we have to establish the post today with Jaden and Coop. Cooper. We had 3 boys make all region, and I think Cooper, deservedly so, probably could have been on that list too. Didn't have the stats for it, but when you look at what he does for us and our team, I really believe he probably, could have been all conference too or all region too. So I think that post play is going to be big for us today, and then just how well we defend the 3. If they make 15 threes, we're going to be in deep trouble today. But I just don't see that happening. I think, the boys, we talked a little bit yesterday, and we'll do it this morning too at our walkthrough. We'll talk about how we're going to guard that, and then I think we'll be ready for it.
And we know what we've seen out of Braden and Trayton and Cooper and Jaden this year, kind of the big 4 there. But if we can, while we still got some time here, Bjorn Kubla, he has 22 points at Valley City, and that was kind of like the Kickstarter for you guys, and you've really been rolling since that road win. So Kubla, before he stepped up this year, you guys were competitive. And with him in the fold, you guys become a lot more dangerous. He's obviously not going to replicate 20 points every night, right, but he's hit some 3s after that game. And, what was the turning point for Bjorn to just kind of get it done on offense?
Well, I think seeing the ball go in is really helpful. He typically doesn't get a lot of shots in the game. He might get 3 shots. So, we'd like to see him make 2 of them. But I think in that game, in the Valley game, he really got in a rhythm, and I thought we managed the clock really well, and then had the ball in his hands and knocked down some shots. And he's one of those kids that kind of a silent assassin, where he's out there just kind of sneaking around, and then pretty soon he pops in the corner and he's wide open, or gets a dribble handoff the top of the key, and the kid goes under the dribble handoff and he's wide open and knocks it down. And I think today will be a big day for him. I think finally he's feeling, kind of back to normal. We saw some energy from him in practice yesterday. He's been sick for a couple weeks, and I think he's getting his energy back, and he's another kid I thought along. You mentioned Braden too. I think not having a 6'5" guy guarding him today, should help out Braden. And I think Bjorn's going to get some open looks. Hasn't, hit a two against Kindred and hit a three against Valley, but really they tried to take him away, after scoring 21 points the previous time. So I think that those two guys really, they'll kind of make us go today, I hope, and then we establish the post play. But I always think when you get to the tournament, who's going to do something they don't normally do, or do something better than they normally do, and that 22 from Bjorn and Valley, that'd be great today. Jack off the bench, hit a couple shots, get some penetration, score would be great. Landon hit a shot off the bench, and Noah Berge hit a big shot late in that game Thursday night. So we have some guys that can do that. It's just you always wonder who's going to be that guy to make the difference in a huge game. And I think we have the guys that can.
You look at Braden and Mauk, and this is the last thing that I wanted to touch on while we have you here is you look at Braden and Trayton, and when they do try to take away players like that, those guys have that throwback mid-range game, and it's so hard because if they can stop them on the drive, maybe they can step out and face guard them on the three, but those guys' ability to hit it from 15 to 17 feet guarded on the mid-range, I mean, how often do you have players come around like that? Those two seem like they're some of the best I've seen come in the program as far as mid-range offense.
Right, being able to hit that jumper. And, I think in the first half against Valley, Braden struggled a little bit, doinked a couple, that's like, geez, what's going on here? But in crunch time, late in that game, I thought, Braden off the dribble was fantastic, hitting that mid-range jumper. And Trey on Thursday night, I mean, that was the thing for him, getting by and then seeing, 6-7 under the hoop, pulling up and just knocking down the jumpers. And they create a lot of offense for them, which we need, that we kind of try to manage the game a little bit and manage the shot clock. And when they can get going off the dribble and score late with their own ability, it really makes us look pretty good.
So the Wahpeton Huskies, they're back in action today, a state qualifier game, 1 p.m. versus Grafton at the Shack. BJ Walters will have the call right here on AM 1450. That was Coach Jeff Ralph, Region 1 Coach of the Year. Jeff's been around the block a few times. You're going to have to try to find some more room for the hardware there, Jeff.
That's really a nice award. But I said, what was the most pleasing about it? I wasn't told I was getting it, but I was told, if you don't make it, you should be there. So I kind of thought maybe, but the reaction from the boys, I mean, they announced my name and the way they cheered and jumped up and down. I mean, that means a lot to me more, than that certificate or that recognition from the guys. I mean, the kids just, how they were so happy for me, and really it's a testament to what they've done this year, the hard work they put in, and they make me look pretty good sometimes. So thanks to them for doing that for me.
Well, Wahpeton definitely making a splash first year in Division A Region 1 with a chance to go to the state tournament again. That's 1 o'clock today on AM 1450 KBMW. We'll be right back with Jordan Christensen, head coach of the Breckenridge Cowboys. Hang around just a few minutes. It's Robert Wannick on the Giants Coaches Show. Welcome back to the Voice of the Valley, AM 1450 KBMW. I'm Robert Wannick, joined here by Breckenridge Cowboys head basketball coach Jordan Christensen. How's it going this morning, Jordan?
Good, Robert. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm still kind of coming down from my broadcast high from the Parkers Prairie game. I know it's just a play-in game, but man, it's exciting to see the kids win 67-64. Of course, that snapped a 22-game losing streak, and not a better group of kids. That they deserve a win like that. So, what was the aftermath? The locker room, the bus ride. I mean, what were the boys like?
It was fun. This is kind of like an inside story, but we were walking back. The coaches were like the last ones back because Joe Schreiner had asked me to come up on there. So the kids were all back in the locker room already when the coaches were walking back. And I was the last one towards the locker room. And I could hear like some commotion when the other coaches walked in. And it sounded like the boys were, I don't know what they were doing. But then I'm walking in and they're all dead silent, like sitting there with their hands in their head, or like head in their hands, like not saying a word. And then Justin Beyer, one of our student managers, is smirking, looking at me. And then I was walking, let's go. And it was fun. It was like a moment that I'm not gonna forget anytime soon, and they probably aren't. And it was just a cool like team locker room moment. And for those kids to have that after just a rough stretch for a while, like we had in those 22 games, we probably had quite a few that we were right there and arguably should have probably won, but didn't. And then to get one then when our season's on the line and get those seniors one more game was great feeling and just really good for those kids, and just happy for Jacob and Bo to just show up like they did in that game and really lead us, and then Cooper and Aiden as well. Those four were huge in Parker's Prairie.
Yeah, so kind of just take us through the keys to that win for people that weren't able to listen to the game. Again, it was 67-64 on the road at Parker's Prairie. Number 9 seed Breck topping number 8 seed Parker's Prairie.
So it was back and forth the whole first half, and I think, Robert, we were up, what would it have been, 25-21 or something along those lines, and they went on a 10-0 run to end the half. And that's not something that hasn't – it's something that's happened before to us to close halves. We had struggled with that all year, and just for us to come out the second half swinging and just stay around that 5 to 3 point deficit, and then all of a sudden the Cooper Roberts show turned on and he hit a 3 and got an and 1 to put us up 8. It was gigantic with about a minute left, and then just to keep hanging in there and keep making plays. Whenever we needed a play, shoot, Bo Byer taking that ball from the guy in the backcourt, just like he didn't like that kid didn't even see it coming. All of a sudden, Bo takes it, gets a layup, and that's just little things like that where we needed a play, and our guys stepped up and made a play.
Yeah, I was sitting next to Chris Roberts and Cooper's brother, Colin Roberts. You know Colin, former linebacker. He's getting pretty excited. I was trying to make sure he didn't run me over. Cooper had a great game. I think he had 17 points. He was the Essentia Health Player of the game. Could you talk about your seniors quick? Like we said, 3-25 on the season, but they did really turn it on late, and that says a lot about a player.
These seniors were just really steady all year. Even through like the losing streak, their attitude at practice wasn't wavering. They were always really good at practice and just really good with the younger guys. I mean, very easily could have just kind of said, you know what, this stinks, and I'm going to pout a little bit and feel sorry for myself, but they didn't do any of that. And that just them going forward in life shows so much about their character and what they're going to be able to do beyond basketball and beyond high school, because it's really bigger than that. Like it's preparing kids for life, and they just the way they responded to everything this year, I'm super proud of them. And Jacob, he's just was the ultimate leader for us this year, just steady, and did not ever get too down on himself or down on others, and was always, guys, keep going, let's go, let's get back in this, let's keep rolling. And to have that vocal presence in the locker room is great for the young guys to hear and see, so then going forward they can model themselves after that.
So you guys are a Class 1A basketball team, play a heavy Class 2A schedule in the Heart of Lakes of all conferences. So we're talking DGF, Perm, Barnesville, Hawley, just the murderer's row of teams on most years. And that obviously takes a toll. So I guess a question that I have for you is, do we ever see Breckenridge go down to play a heavier 1A schedule? I mean, I know travel's kind of an issue, but you beat Border West, you beat Battle Lake, you enter the playoffs, suddenly you beat a 10-win Parker's Prairie team. But it just gets tough, when you're going up against perennial 2A powerhouses. So are you guys ever going to load a little bit more games on there, or is it just HOL ride or die?
I'd like to just stay HOL ride or die. And we've got more 1A games the last couple of years than we had. Since we've moved down, we've slowly added a few more. Like we're not going to East Grand Forks anymore. Fergus not on the schedule next year. But coincidentally enough, the HOL is getting a little bigger, and the travel is going to be a little bit more of a mess for us. They added Staples and Park Rapids, and I think one of those two teams are only going to play once, and they're still working through some of that scheduling stuff. But there's going to now be 9 HOL teams, and adding 2 more 2A or AA teams, and I really think it's a good thing for us to play that. Now, the last couple of years, the HOL has been pretty loaded, and we've had a little bit of a tough stretch. But going forward, looking at our younger kids, they're pretty competitive in the HOL, and JV was really competitive in the HOL. I think going forward, we'll be back to where we can compete in the HOL. Just this last couple kind of leaves a sour taste in everybody's mouth, but we got to get to work and get back to that point where if we're competitive in the HOL, we're going to be fine in section play.
Yeah,
that's really what I believe, and we can go 500 in the HOL. We're going to be one of the better teams in our 6A section, I would believe, and that's kind of the goal going into next year.
Yeah, you see that in the girls' side. Hancock 27-2, the Cowgirls 16-12 coming into that game, but obviously playing a lot of 2A teams, and it showed the competition kind of evens itself out. Next thing that I wanted to ask you here is we kind of know who the returning guys are. Cooper, Caleb, Albertson. You'll have Avery Smith, some of those younger guys that played in, but who are some of the guys coming up? I know Hunter Bogenreif. He's like seventh or an eighth grader. He threw down a dunk in a game this year.
It was 2 dunks.
There's lots of good young players. So who potentially could crack the roster and be that 7th or 8th guy coming in?
7th or 8th guy.
Or do you think they're going to be like the 6th guy coming in next year?
I think there's quite a few guys we could list off. I mean, really the 5 that I can kind of give you, they're going to be in the rotation would be, well, obviously Aiden and Cooper. They've started for us all year, and Caleb. Those 3, they've been steady all year this year for us. And then kid like Connor Ernst down the stretch has played some really big minutes and shown he can defend and handle the ball at a varsity level. And then we've got, well, my brother Levi is coming. He played JV all year. He'll play for us next year. And then we've got this group of, like, it depends on what they do this summer, honestly. Like, how much skill work are they going to do? Are they going to get shots up like Avery Smith, Joey Lopez? Then you throw in Hunter Bogenreif. You got Logan Church in there. Just a number of guys who are going to have opportunities to fight for a role next year. And it's really dependent on what we do this summer. And that's going to be a huge deciding factor in how our next season goes, is what are we willing to do this summer to get better and get more skilled going into next year.
Yeah, so it'll be nice to see those guys at the gym when it's open for voluntary stuff in the summer. Probably pop out, see how they're doing, see if I can't get up the court once or twice before falling over. But good, healthy competition in the Cowboys program. Like I said, kind of a victim of a tough schedule this year, and sometimes that stuff cascades. But who are we if we don't welcome competition, right?
Exactly, and we're not going to back down from anybody. These kids really did battle. There were so many times where we'd be 10, 12 minutes into a game and we're like, all right, we're right here. And then the other teams would go on runs, and we were closer to competing in games than the score showed, because there'd be a couple stretches that would just kill us, and then we'd be pretty even for the other 28 minutes of the game. We'd have 2 4-minute stretches or 2 5-minute stretches in there that really hurt us. And I think there's a lot of things to build off of for next year. I mean, offensively, the last 3-4 games, we showed that we can score on man-to-man defenses. I really am comfortable going into next year as far as man-to-man stuff. But then in the West Central game, you saw their 2-3 gave us some troubles. We got to get some of that worked through going into next year. But I think we're in a good spot knowing the guys we have coming back and then who we have coming up that played JV. And I forgot to mention a couple kids. Charlie Krecha and Gavin Hoffer can both shoot the lights out, and they did all year for the JV. And they're 2 kids too who are going to be fighting for a spot next year. I mean, I comfortably list 10 guys, and I'm not sure. I can't tell you who's going to be at what spot, and that's a long time away. I shouldn't be able to tell you that either.
Yeah, and most of them aren't seniors, so
no.
I mean, next year's not the end-all, be-all, so they got a lot of work ahead of them.
Mm-hmm. A lot of work to do, and just got to keep plugging away. And I think they're honestly, even though it was a rough season, I think we've got a lot of kids that are pretty excited about basketball going forward, and that's the biggest thing. Get them excited and excited to work, and they understand like it's not made to be easy. We got a lot of work to do going forward, but I think they're up for the challenge.
So another thing I want to touch on you before we go here is, so like you said, you got your brother Levi, sophomore this school year, right? So he's JV. He transferred back from Hillcrest, so he had to play JV. He absolutely shredded the JV teams. He really had no business being down there, but at least he's getting the reps. But because of transfer rules, he had to play there. Older brother Noah's at Concordia. He'll be a senior next year. I know he's excited for that trip to St. John's after they knocked them off this year. And then you also have senior in high school brother Luke, who's at Hillcrest. They match up against Ada Borup. That game's tonight.
That is today at 2:30.
Today at 2:30. Are you going to be there?
Of course.
And what do you expect out of that game? Hillcrest and Ada Borup, two of the top teams in your section.
They're kind of they're a little bit opposites. I've watched Ada just coincidentally watching other teams film, like watching Monoman because they play Monoman twice. And they are very guard orientated. They're going to try and get downhill. They've got some pretty good guards. And then Hillcrest they're pretty long, and they've got Luke inside, and then the Brumfield kid who's about 6'4", 6'5", and it's going to be a heck of a matchup. I'm excited to go watch that. Going to go watch Henning and Park Christian before too, both couple teams that are section opponents, and a fun day of basketball. I'm going to ride with my brother Jonah, the other one.
Sorry, yeah, Jonah, you're really good too. So we'll give him his roses too.
But no, I'm excited for today, and hopefully Hillcrest can get a win, and it'd be fun to watch the brother continue to play. But last thing, Bert, I'd just like to mention all four of our seniors: Carter Bernard, Colin Suko, Bo Beyer, and Jacob Kunkel. Those kids were 2 years from now. They're gonna look back and be able to say we kind of set the tone for the culture going forward, and when we're having some more success a few years down the road, they'll come back and they can be proud of that they started this.
Well, it's always lots of basketball when we got Jordan in here. Like I said, we've got Luke, Jordan, Noah playing basketball, Jonah on the farm, and shooting 40-footers at open gym. So thanks for joining me today, Jordan. We'll be right back on the Giants Coaches Show in just a couple minutes with Cowgirls head coach. Welcome back to the Voice of the Valley. I'm Robert Wahpeton, joined by Cowgirls head coach Tony Bogenreif, coming off a section semifinal thriller, and that was a fun one versus Hancock, 72-70. Came up short, but it's almost like the small victory afterwards, the ripple effect that it's going to send through Cowgirls basketball. Can you kind of tell me about the aftermath of that game? I saw lots of smiles and the bigger picture. I mean, what is the program like right now?
You know what, like you said, it's going to hopefully send that ripple effect going into the summer and for years to come. We talked about the girls, just how, not a lot of people probably gave us a chance in that game. They just battled, and we hit shots and played tough, and were able to take them into overtime. I don't know, that I'm not big for moral victories, but that was one that I'm willing to accept.
So Hancock comes into that game 27-2. Can you kind of tell me what the mindset was within the program, within the practices? There certainly seemed like there had to have been plenty of self-belief going into that game.
There was, and our girls, we've talked about it many times, that they just never give up. Doesn't matter who we're playing. We talked about respecting Hancock but not fearing them. We knew that they could shoot it. We talked about executing our game plan. I think our girls did a really good job of doing that. They knew that if we could just stay the course, that we would have a shot in the end. And like you said, we believed it, and our girls definitely believed it and gave it all they had.
And it looks like you've got some numbers laid out in front of you. I'm a big analytics guy, so let's just open the book and take a look at what you got here.
You look at Huddle's stats, and they have both teams side by side and compare, and they bold. If you won or lost the category, and we're dang near bold in every single one. So it's tough to see that. We did not shoot free throws very well the last two games actually, and then they shot 44 free throws. And we to our 9 according to Huddle. So that's
9 for the game?
Yeah. And they shot 44, made 31 of them. So that's 31 of their 72 points came from the line. And I'm not saying the officiating was terrible. We just fouled a lot and at times put them in the bonus from the other end of the court. We just had a couple bad fouls, but give them credit. They are tough. They hit big shots. It felt like they hit way more than 9 threes when that 10 she comes down and can shoot it from anywhere. But otherwise, I think stats-wise, we did fairly well. We turned them over 19 times. We rebounded. We had 40 rebounds to their 31. So I think, we brought physicality to that game, and I don't know that it's something that they play every night. We went over to Fergus last night to watch them play Underwood, and and you could tell they were worn out still from Wednesday night, and they didn't play quite like they did against us. So it would have been nice for them to have maybe that game leading up to us. But I'm happy with the way things turned out. Sydney obviously shot really well. She had 30 for us that night. Parker was 16. Aaron Blofis with a big night with 12 too. And then everybody I thought we took care of the ball well. We didn't force a whole lot, and that was kind of the message the last, I don't know, couple weeks of the season. Just value every possession and take care of the ball and get good shots.
So Sydney scores 30 points. She's obviously a gamer. You see it like if she's in the swimming pool, she's doing her best in the EDC. She's a catcher on the softball team, the toughest position. And then she comes out in this section semifinal game and has like 6 quick drives to the bucket. You know, she's more of an outside shooter, at least this season.
Yep.
And she was just slicing right through the defense. But not just Sydney. You have so many young girls, no seniors on this team. And now that the season's over, I can actually ask you, what is the forecast for next year? You got a tough section. What does it look like? I know we're a long ways out, but if you could just take us through it.
You know, it's really hard to tell how it'll all shake out. But there's a lot of young teams. Hillcrest girls team does not have any seniors either. Hancock loses 2 that played quite a bit. Underwood loses 2 that start for them, and everybody else is kind of young after that. West Central is really young. They're physical. They're tough. I think for the most part it'll be fairly similar, but I'm hoping that we can end out on top. That would be ideal. Our girls after the game, you know, it was tough. There were tears. There were also smiles, like you had said, but they were all asking, when can we get in the gym? So you know that they're going to put in the work and they're going to put in the time this summer to try and get back and try and win a couple more games next year.
So one player I wanted to touch on for our listeners here, Ava Janning, 7th grader. Obviously far advanced for a 7th grader. You look at Parker Yagi and Jonica Bernatis, who was injured this year, and then Emily Gowan. Those 3 for sophomores, they've been at it for a while now, and they're very good. Looks like she's just trying to catch them very fast. So what have you seen out of her?
You know, she's stayed aggressive and hasn't, you know, she's made some young mistakes, and but for the most part, she's pretty level-headed. If she turns it over, yeah, she's upset with herself, but you know, it's not going to stop her the next time to drive and try and get a bucket for us. She, going back to the West Central game, we were down 8, almost going into the half, and then she hit a big 3 to put us within 5. I mean, not a lot of 7th graders have that confidence to step up and hit a big 3 like that. And we've been happy to have her come off the bench, and she's given us really good minutes. She can play all the guard spots and has that confidence, but can also defend for her size. You know, we always give her a little bit of a hard time just for being so young and small, but she plays big.
So you have a whole new coaching staff this year. You know, you come up from assistant to your first year as the head coach of the team, and not lacking experience. You got Timmy Janning, who's been doing a lot with the youth at St. Mary's, so he's got that connection with them for many years. Brenda Dahlgren, who's been around the block several times. And then you have Joel Herder, and then, of course, you have player coach Jonica Bernatis. So what a luxury that was. Can you just tell me a little bit about your coaching staff?
You know, you kind of touched on all of it. Tim's done a nice job with our youth and just getting them in things, getting them in the gym, getting them to love the game. And that's huge, knowing that you have somebody that you can count on at the youth. And right now it's Matt Fredericks doing that, and he's done a great job. The girls love going to practice, and he does a really nice job of getting them to do the little things right. So at a young age, that's just really important. And you got Brenda, like you said, she's probably forgot more about basketball than I know.
Right.
It's fun just getting to hear her side of things, seeing what she sees on film and different things that she adds. You know, she added a few drills that we worked on this year that are the little things where girls on a fast break, she gave us a technique to go about trying to slow them down or make them change their shot. And it's not stuff that you always work on in practice, but it is the little things. And we did some stuff with our free throws, the box out part of it, and really seemed to change. We got a lot of rebounds off that. But just, yeah, everything that she brings, it's just fun to bounce ideas off her. Then you got Joel Herder. He brings a lot of comedy to the girls. The girls
Certainly.
Love having him around. He was gone for a stretch, and that's kind of the stretch that we had a tough schedule, but, you know, just sometimes having that person there to keep it loose is is good. So everybody was calling him our lucky charm, and but he enjoys being around it, and he's been around the game and watched a lot of basketball in his lifetime. Where it's always nice to be able to hear all these different aspects. You got Tim, who's new to the high school level stuff, and he's a little bit newer basketball, I'd say, compared to the other two, and just hearing all the different sides of it. But and then you got Jonica, who's hopefully retired from coaching at least at least for a few years.
Pretty good career if that's the case.
Yeah.
So.
But it was good hearing stuff that, she was our coach on the court before anyways. So just her, she would give us, she'd say, let's run this or let's run that. And it typically would work. You could take her advice, it's not always a high school kid, they might just throw something out there, but she was very knowledgeable of the game and knew what our players needed. And so it was good to have her, but I'll like having her on the court a little bit more, actually.
So Bernatis, she had the ACL injury. Luckily, at the very beginning part of the season, I actually saw her stat line pop up from the quarterfinal playoffs last year, and it was like 25 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. So Breckenridge doing all this damage without her in the lineup, so it'll be great to have her back next year. By all accounts, sounds like she's doing really good in her rehab. Again, we're joined by Tony Bogenreif here. Last question I got for you, Tony, is we got the summer coming up. Obviously, you're limited in what you can do as a head coach with the players in the summer, and you're probably going to need to spend some time with the wife and the 3 little ones. But what do you plan on doing this summer, or the program plan on doing, and what should the girls be doing to take their game to the next level?
We have quite a few girls that play AAU, so they're putting in time on their own. But we always, and since Coach Imdeck was here, we've done a couple of skills nights, and then we'll have maybe a coach, skills coach come in and do some nights of that. We've had some NBA trainer. I don't think we're going to have to ask the girls to do a whole lot. They're going to be there. Besides our skills night, they're always asking if they can get shots up. Our gun gets used quite a bit, our shooting gun. We're going to do a couple tournaments. We do a couple breakdown tournaments, try and go play other people a little bit, but it's nice to see the HOL teams and section teams during the summer. And then our plan is to go to the Wisconsin Dells for their tournament this summer too. So try and sprinkle in some fun, but also do the work so we're ready for next year.
That was head coach Tony Bogenreif for the Breckenridge Cowgirls. They got themselves past the quarterfinal round and took the number 2 team in the state, Hancock, to overtime. So next year the target may be on their back, but with the group they have, I think they're certainly going to welcome it. Coming right up, we've got Coach Mike Oehlke of the number 1 ranked NDSCS Wildcats right here on the Giants Coaches Show. Welcome back to the Giants Sports Show. I'm Robert Wannick here at the Voice of the Valley. Changing pace here from basketball, we are joined by national champion head coach Mike Oehlke of the NDSCS Wildcats, currently ranked number 1. They're just pulling into Kansas, and Mike's joining us by phone. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Can you kind of take us through how your team has been doing so far this year? Obviously holding down that number 1 ranking early, staying busy with tough competition. Dawson's tough in the Mondac. But you're also going outside of conference play.
Yeah, so we opened the season. We took on a series of 4-year schools, so some NAIA's Division II schools up at Minot State. Did fairly well there, competed, and then our conference has a kind of a preseason tournament, so we did well there. We took a loss from Dawson, but we bounced back a couple weeks later, and we had a tournament at the University of Jamestown, and we beat Dawson there. So all in all, not too bad for the dome part of the season.
So you've got a couple great pitchers again, it looks like, and that's been, we go Sid Schott, Caitlin Strauss, and then, of course, you had the absolute just number 3 stepping up in the national championship in Bisbing. But now you got 2 good pitchers again this year at the top. Can you kind of take me through your staff?
Yeah, so we have 2 freshman pitchers. Both have been doing very well. I think they complement each other fairly well. One's a drop ball pitcher, decent changeup, and the other one's throws a rise ball. And both, fairly local. One's a West Fargo kid. The other one is from Minnesota, just north of the cities. So with that, yeah, and, pitching's a huge part of the game. So I think we have a couple good ones.
So we've got Grace Folkema or Folkema?
Folkema.
So she had that combined no-hitter earlier in the season, so that was very fun to watch. But offensively, we've got some absolute great power hitters and a little bit of speed. But, I mean, you guys got a little bit of everything. You're not ranked number 1 for no reason. But take me through the lineup and where's your bread and butter at?
Well, Avery Martin is back. She was an All-American. She hits number 3 for us in catcher. She's, just a solid hitter. So she's kind of, runs our lineup. We have some speed at the top. Kids get on base. So when we have a freshman out of Cincinnati, Kendall Moss, that plays third. She's a solid third baseman. And then Anna Johnson, hits pretty well for us too. So in the middle of the order there, we got some decent power. And then, TK Landis is back. She's got a, powerful bat, and she's super fast. So her and Yaya, who's actually from Nebraska, we just drove through. We actually stayed pretty close to her hometown last night. But, those two kind of round out, and then we have a little speed at the bottom. So decent lineup. Defensively, we've been playing really well. Now, it's a little different in the Dome because, we get true bounces and everything like that. It'll be nice. This will be our first weekend outside, on dirt. So we'll see how that goes. But defensively, we've been playing really well. So, with freshman pitchers, it's always good to have a lot of strikeouts, but at the same time, you have to make plays when the ball's put in play. And we've been doing that. And we have speed in the outfield, and we have Riley Tappy at short, who's just a solid shortstop for us. Last year, I think she played every inning of every game at short. And so with that, we have a pretty solid defense this year as well.
And Tappy playing the shortstop and certainly hitting a couple bombs last year. But I think my favorite part is if you guys go follow the Wildcats softball team on Instagram or Riley on Instagram, she's got Tappy time. So that's one of the better college athlete segments.
She's a very good fielder, a very good leader, a good bat in the lineup. She just does everything, pretty well, and just very tough and very gritty player. So we're very lucky that we got her. She's out of Indiana, kind of southern Indiana.
So the Wildcats here are on the road in Kansas, playing a handful of talented teams, stepping up a level in a lot of these games. The defending national champions at their JUCO level with that all-time comeback in the 7th inning last year. Can you kind of take us through when are you going to get back here in Wahpeton? I know your guys' field does really well as far as conditions and being ready. We definitely want to broadcast some games this year. We want to do the same for the Breckenridge Wahpeton Storm softball team. So when can fans expect the home opener to tentatively kick off here?
Well, we kind of, I want to say we're going to get back like Thursday, Friday. I'm hoping to be outside then practicing. And then that next weekend, we're actually going down to Minnesota to play a couple, Region 13, Division 3 JUCOs, St. Cloud Tech, who should be one of the top teams in the South, and Central Lakes, which is one of the top teams in the North. And then when we get back that last weekend in March, I think that's also Easter weekend, but we should open with Miles that weekend, which will be big for us. So we'll host Friday, Saturday there.
So the Wildcats are going to go play some Region 13 teams in Minnesota. And if you guys didn't know, it's no walk in the park. They got to get through that Region 13. That's got a couple of those good Division 3 teams. They got to play a Mondac conference schedule that faces some top-heavy, that has some top-heavy talent there. And then, of course, once they get to the national tournament, it doesn't get any easier. So by the time they get there, they're battle-tested. So credit to the athletics department there and Stewing and Coach Oehlke for getting it done and scheduling what needs to be scheduled. So, Mike, is there anything else that we should know about this group that you've seen? We want to get some people out to watch this team. The more fanfare, the better.
Just a good group. This trip, it's certainly does a lot for team bonding, team building. We head down to Kansas City. We're traveling in bands. So we're with each other quite a bit. We're playing some pretty tough teams that are already in their conference schedule, and they've also been practicing and playing outside already. So, it's tough. It's supposed to be tough for us. And then, when we get back, we'll have to get after it and get ready for our conference. Our conference is fairly tough with Miles and Dawson are typically the two tough ones. But, Williston, Bismarck look like they're in a little better shape this year. So it should be a good challenge for conference as well.
Well, there you have it, folks. That was head coach Mike Oehlke of the NDSCS Wildcats. They've been making the national tournament an annual business trip. Of course, it is their title, and people are going to have to go through them if they want a shot at it this year. They're in Kansas, and they'll be home little bit later in the season. We'll have all that for you on kbmwnews.com. That wraps up the Giants Coaches Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Robert Wanek at the Voice of the Valley.